Welcome into the Awesemo MMA strategy shows. Here to get you ready for UFC Vegas number 42. Yeah, I had to go to the UFC's Twitter account to see which number we were actually on this week as I was doing my show on Wednesday going, are we at 42, 43? But we are at 42. Of course, we're here to break this one down for you. Of course, we are sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight. Later on the show, we're going to tell you a little bit about Monkey Knife Fight, talk about some of the props over there, as I will tell you, as I was putting together my spreadsheet a little earlier. A lot of total strikes. We got a bunch of fighters over 100. And of course, Max Holloway's one of them after that performance he had against Calvin Kattar. Of course, as always here on the strategy show, I am joined by the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr. Pete, always great to be talking a little MMA with you here on a Thursday afternoon. I had to think about, I was like, what day of the week is it?
Yeah, I'm all screwed up as well. What's going on, everybody? How you guys doing? Thanks for joining us today. Anytime Max Holloway is on the card, I'm excited. I absolutely love watching this fighter fight. It's just a spectacular skill, inside the octagon. So again, I can't wait to see the fight.
And we're going to get to this fight later on. Pete, we didn't even talk about this before the show.
What?
I'm scared to say this. I think the first fight of the night is a must roster fight.
Yep. Agreed. Okay. I'm glad that we're on the same page. I don't think that's too bold. I know you hate the first fight of the night, but when I was doing my pre-show breakdown, I fell on that fight a lot. And I'm like, yeah, I could see this going, one of two ways. So I feel like we definitely have to roster it. We'll break it down as we go on, but yeah, we're definitely on the same page.
And I will say this, I believe the GPP fight of the week is Miguel Baeza versus Chaos Williams.
Damn. Okay. Yeah. Agreed with you again, Jason, man. It's like you've been around the sport for a while.
It's like we might text about Baeza Chaos Williams earlier this week or something.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. But yes, we did kind of text about that. But yeah.
But of course, we did lose one fight earlier this week. Kyle Dawkins and Roman Dolidze. Kyle Dawkins has already been rebooked. He's going to take on Julian Marquez in February. So he's got a little bit of time to wait here. But Pete, let's get right into this. Of course, main event, Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez. Let me just first ask you this. When you hear the news that Max Holloway is as much a 7-1 betting favorite in this one, what went through your mind?
I think he should be. I really do think he should be because the guy is just absolutely incredible. And I think it also has something to do with his opponent. Yair Rodriguez has looked spectacular when he's not, when he has a comfortable distance between him and his opponents and he's able to let off his kicks. But he's been outboxed numerous times. And you saw that in the Korean Zombie fight where he was absolutely, beaten from pillar to post. And then at the very final seconds of the fight, throws a wild, kind of reverse up elbow, like a spinning elbow where he ducks his head and throws that. And that was kind of like a Hail Mary that got him through that fight. But up until that point, a very, very strong boxer was picking him apart. And I feel like Max Holloway is a hell of a lot better than the Korean Zombie. So I'm expecting Max Holloway to have answers for everything that Yair Rodriguez throws at him. But obviously, whenever you're facing a talented kicker, you have to be very, very careful with your defense.
Obviously, Max Holloway coming off performance where he scored 209 DraftKings points, where he landed 445 significant strikes in a 25-minute fight.
Yeah. Okay. So that goes to show you the volume's always there. The lack of power is something to note, right? Like to hit somebody 445 times and not get them out of there is a credit to Kattar's toughness, but also you can kind of sit there and put Holloway's power under a microscope and be like, maybe he needs to sit down on his punches a little bit, or maybe he's comfortable just, with the attrition of, dominating from bell to bell. And a lot of fighters are like that, right? Where they value domination over the entire duration of the fight rather than quick finishes. So I don't know. I just love Max Holloway, however this fight goes. The odds, obviously, it's an MMA fight, little gloves facing a talented kicker. Anything can happen, but I'm extremely siding in Max Holloway's favor.
The last time Max Holloway did not land at least 100 significant strikes in a fight, 2016 versus Anthony Pettis. Of course, he got the victory there in the third round. Of course, by the way, we do have pricing out on FanDuel already. Typically, we do these earlier shows. They don't have them out there, but $23 for Max Holloway, $12 for Yair Rodriguez. And of course, over on DraftKings, $9,500 for for Max and 6,700 in terms of Yair. I mean, look, I think the question in terms of our DFS lineups this week is, okay, how much Max do you want to get to? And what does the rest of your roster look like? I really don't want to get to Yair Rodriguez. I just don't think this is a great matchup for him. But man, it's going to make roster construction interesting when I'm trying to put in a Max Holloway.
Yeah, I definitely will make it interesting. I think the 9,500 is warranted. He is the Steph Curry of this slate, and he could definitely provide a very, very high score. Obviously, if it's a third round decision, that's third round decision. If it's a third round finish, that's always our fear. If for some reason it was lackadaisical in the early rounds, but I mean, there's no reason for me to get away from Max Holloway. He struggled in the matchups against Volkanovski, where in losses he scored 54 and 43 DraftKings points. So let's say he got the decision on that. It would have been 73, it would have been 84. Not really the best score, but I also feel like Volkanovski's such a stylistic nightmare for him in certain areas where he has to be, very aware of takedowns. He's not going to have to worry about Yair Rodriguez trying to take him down. At least I don't think so. He's going to be able to go in there against another striker and just display his entire arsenal, as you saw against Calvin Kattar. So there's no reason for me to get away from him. I'm fine spending up for it. If people are a little afraid of Max Holloway, arguably one of the best fighters of all time, well, they can be afraid of him. I'm not.
So what's the path to Yair Rodriguez in your mind?
He's got to catch him with a kick. I really don't foresee him beating Max Holloway for 5 rounds. Don't even foresee him winning 3 rounds against Max Holloway. It has to be disguising a kick behind his hands. And a lot of times when you have a tricky kicker, they can make you move into kicks. I like to think that I can kick pretty well. And I like to set up my kicks behind my hands a lot. And I can blend it. And if you have an artist who can blend their punches into their kicks, sometimes you miss a beat and you don't see it coming. That's what I think, that he has to have a variety of kicks. He has to target, all levels, low, medium, and high. And he has to make Max Holloway guess which level it's going to go, where he thinks he's going low and he's going high. And if Holloway's defense is not tight enough, you see some people try to get away with blocking with just one hand. And when that occurs, the force of a kick goes through the block a lot. And that's where you see people get knocked out when they're not expecting it. I like to see reinforced blocks. I also like to see Max Holloway shoot counter straight down the middle. But I think it's going to be very, very tough sledding for Yair Rodriguez. His price is always appealing because 6,700, if this does go the distance, you would think that he could possibly be a part of the optimal if he's able to land a ton of strikes. But he could also be a punching bag for 5 rounds. So, I'm siding with Max Holloway. I probably won't stack the fight.
Mention this question from Matt in the chat. He says, given that Rodriguez is only 6,700 on DraftKings and the fight is essentially even money to go the distance, is this the week the main event can be stacked in cash?
Yeah, I mean, so kind of just exactly what I said. I mean, I would have minimal exposure to a stack just because I think, he can land a ton of kicks. But whenever you're kicking so much, that does zap your energy more than punches, obviously. And also if Max Holloway counters, or if he's just not there, we could still see him not really pay off even that low price, because it's just going to be a dominant performance for Max. So I will actually say that I don't recommend stacking, but in cash, it's always somewhat safe because it's so cheap and allows you to get to everybody.
Did want to mention a note on Yair Rodriguez. This is his first fight in 2 years. Of course, he was supposed to have a fight in 2020 against Sabit Magomed. That fight did not happen. And then he ended up getting a USADA suspension for a whereabouts failure. For those who aren't aware, basically what fighters have to do, there's an app they have on their phone that basically says, this is where I'm going to be. And then if they show, I think once you get 3 strikes, once basically a third strike happens, that's when you potentially get a whereabout policy violation there. So first fight in 2+ years for Yair Rodriguez. There's something to kind of think about in this one, but I understand why someone may want to stack this one in cash. Of course, this is the Awesemo MMA strategy show. We're getting ready for UFC Vegas number 42. And of course, be sure to subscribe to also right here on YouTube. Look, every single day we got a ton of great shows for you. And of course, if you're not an Awesemo Plus member and you want to see what's behind the paywall, today's free premium data and tools NBA player projections, Thursday night football top plays, NHL top stacks, and for a limited time, college basketball DFS projections. College basketball is back. I know Knowles had a good game last night against Penn, so excited to have some college football back in our lives. Of course, the co-main event of this fight card, heavyweight matchup, Ben Rothwell taking on Marcos Rogerio de Lima, 8,600 for Big Ben, 7,600 for de Lima, $18 and $13 respectively over on FanDuel. And Pete, we have the Ronda Marcos of the fight card here.
Yes, we do. It's a volatile matchup. It's a heavyweight fight. Obviously, you have to be very careful with your selection in these bouts. But I feel pretty confident that Ben Rothwell is going to be able to go out there and have a solid performance against Rogerio de Lima. I just think that he checks more boxes for me than de Lima does. De Lima did look, pretty good in his last matchup against Maurice Green, where you actually saw him showcase some takedowns and get some top control. But I don't really foresee that happening against Ben Rothwell. I think Ben Rothwell's the better grappler, the better wrestler. And he's just tricky. He's so tricky, and he has some sneaky chokes where Rogerio de Lima has struggled in the past of, he's the guy that got, choked out from Alexander Romanov with the forearm choke, which isn't really a choke. He leaves his neck out there. Stefan Struve, arm triangle, Open St. Preux, Von Flue. Go through his entire record. He has multiple losses via choke. So I think for Ben Rothwell, needs to somewhat be careful of the wild swinging Rogerio de Lima, capitalize on a mistake, and then snatch up that neck.
The reason I call this the Ronda Marcos fighter of this card is because Marcos Rogerio de Lima has not won. He has alternated wins and losses in his last 11 fights. The last time he won back-to-back fights, 2014. He is coming off a win, and so
he's due for a loss, bro.
Well, look at his wins in the UFC. They all have something in common. None of them are in the UFC anymore.
Is
Richardson Moreira, Igor Petrajicek, Clint Husser, Jeremy Kimball, Adam Wazarczyk, Ben Sassoli, Maurice Green.
Maurice Green's not in the UFC anymore. He got cut.
Yeah, he got cut. His last loss. Yeah,
makes sense. I mean, he's a low-level heavyweight for sure. Ben Rothwell is not what he used to be. He was damn near title contender. And he has some notable wins. I think for Ben, he's able to get out volumed at times and beat to the punch at times. His tricky movement and just weird angles can catch people off guard, and that's kind of what comes through and bails them out a lot of times. But I don't foresee Rogerio de Lima beating him for 15 minutes. So I'll have to side with Ben Rothwell finding a way to get this done and trying to go back to the well and test that submission defense of Rogerio de Lima.
I will say this in terms of the props bets, in terms of this one, the two that stick out to me is I think if Marcos Rogerio de Lima wins this fight, I think it's early. So round one, he's at plus 450. Rothwell via submission plus 400 is another very interesting prop out there.
That to me doesn't make any sense. I'm going to have to throw something on that. I could see this going the distance, but given the history of Rogerio de Lima and how he's lost some of his fights and how he at times has fatigued and got put in bad positions, Rothwell's got a very, very sneaky choke. So I can actually see him snatching up that neck pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a heavyweight fight that I think you're going to feel great in rostering. But I think the longer this fight goes on, and maybe particularly, I think maybe if you want to look at it, maybe Ben Rothwell wins this fight in the second round. I will tell you, we're going to talk about this fight in terms of monkey knife fight. I think Ben Rothwell's number is way too high on total strikes. We'll get into that here in a little bit. Next one, we got a female matchup. Felicia Spencer taking on Leah Letson, 9,100 for Felicia Spencer. Leah Letson, she's 7,100, and then it's $21 and $10 respectively over on FanDuel. I see you shaking your head. What are you shaking your head for?
I'm just puzzled by this matchup. It's just so odd because like Felicia Spencer has fought absolute legitimate competition since she came in. I mean, she debuted and got a victory over Megan Anderson, which I thought was extremely impressive. And we know that was kind of like the Achilles heel of Megan Anderson is her ground game and what happens if she faces a talented grappler. And then she was absolutely thrown to the wolves, fought Chris Cyborg, and then given a softball matchup against Zara Farron, where you saw her, showcase excellent ground skills and route to a ground and pound finish. And then also, after that performance, thrown to the wolves again against Amanda Nunes. So, following that fight, we saw her go against Norma Dumont. And I thought that it would be competitive, but I believe I did side with Felicia Spencer because I just was like, she's fought the tougher opposition at this moment. She's checked boxes. She's able to blend everything. She's got good kicks. She's got decent striking. She was going toe to toe with Chris Cyborg, didn't get finished. She went the distance with Amanda Nunes, got beat from pillar to post, didn't get finished. I felt like it was a pretty confident pick that she was going to, get a victory over Norma Dumont. But let me tell you, Norma Dumont has looked absolutely incredible. She just won not too long ago and looked spectacular. So now you're giving her what I think is kind of like a get right fight against Leah Letson, who has been away from the cage for a little bit. 5-1 overall, so relatively green in comparison to Felicia Spencer, especially when you look at the opposition. Lost on the Ultimate Fighter to Macy Chasson, has a victory over Bay Malecki. Not sure how to really value that. And then a victory over Yulia Stolyarenko back in 2018. So a big inactivity. So I'm still siding with Felicia Spencer. There's nothing that I've seen from Leah Letson to make me want to even get tempted in picking her in this fight. And I think 9,100 for Felicia Spencer is a discount, and she should actually be more, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get to Leah Letson here. I mean, 3-year layoff. As I believe she's still reserve military.
Yes.
So happy Veterans Day to everyone out there that served our country. Thank you for your service. That has played part of her layoff as well here. But yeah, to me, I want to get to Felicia Spencer here at 9,100. And like what you said there, I think you're completely right. It's a get back fight, get well fight. Those fights that are set up where you have a clear A side and a clear B side to the fight. Of course, right before the show, I do know that the boss man did update ownership projections, so you can check that out over at Awesemo.com. And if you want to get access to all the great tools and content we have over Awesemo, you got to sign up for Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. And if you're a new user of Awesemo Plus Platinum, we got a special for you during this show when you use the promo code MMA Strategy Show. That's all word, all caps, MMA Strategy Show for 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Get you access to all the great premium tools and data we have over there on the MMA side of things. Get you those ownership projection, that top fire tool that really is, it's a spreadsheet that I look at every time when I'm developing my MMA line. So be sure to check out that. Take advantage of that offer if you have not been an Awesemo Plus member. MMA Strategy Show is that promo code. Let's move over to a matchup that I believe is a GPP fight of the week. Miguel Baeza and Chaos Williams. 8,500 for Baeza, 7,700 for Chaos Williams, 18 and 14 respectively there over on FanDuel. This is, I mean, to me, it's a GPP fight. I think also this is kind of a boom bust type fight as well, because I feel like if you're on the wrong side, potentially this could be that fight where you have 10 points, 15, 20 points. Two strikers here. I mean, we have seen a more calculated approach from Chaos Williams.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah.
You look at, he came in, those first 2-round finishes, but his last 2 fights, we've seen more of a patient guy here. But I do wonder, Miguel Baeza, will ultimately the kicks lead to a knockout win for him?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, because if this is the Chaos Williams who debuted in the UFC, then I would absolutely circle this matchup and probably have 100% exposure. Now, there is a route where I can actually see this going the distance, where it's a calculated striking affair. They're both very, very tough. They're both very talented. So maybe I am overestimating the finishing ability of both of these guys, because I feel like it'll be a highly contested affair. But for a good percentage of my lineups, I'm going to treat this like somebody's getting knocked out. They have the skills to knock each other out. And you're also talking about Miguel Baeza coming off a knockout loss where, yes, it's against, one of the most talented strikers in the division, against Santiago Ponzinibbio. But it wasn't even, okay. My apologies. It wasn't even a finish. I thought he got finished. He didn't. That's how bad he got rocked in that fight. He ended up making it, all the way through, lost a decision, but he was very close to getting out of there. But that was a lot of damage he took in that fight. Chaos Williams has looked a little bit more reserved, has the power. That power looked absolutely incredible against Abdul Razak Al Hassan. I mean, that knockout will live on forever. Before that, Alex Morono. And then a more laid back, calculated striking affair against Michelle Pahea and Semmelsberger. So I'm not really sure what to get here. I like what you said about the kicks and the calf kicks of Miguel Baeza. I think could be the difference maker here when you're facing a guy who's so boxing oriented. They are a little too heavy on their lead leg. And if you can, land some calf kicks, you really chew that leg up, make them hesitant about coming forward. The takedown starts to go out the window now as well. So for the majority of my lineups, I will act like this fight, somebody's getting finished, and I will be siding with Miguel Baeza. I wish that they were kind of a little closer in price. 8,500. It's fair. It's a fair price. I just really like the skill set of Baeza. I also like the fact that I know that he's a very talented grappler, either a brown belt or black belt, if I'm not mistaken. So he could always go that route if things get ugly. And I think that Chaos Williams could actually bring that out in him, where he's like, man, that power is for real. I need to be safe. I need to take him to the mat. But I'll be prioritizing this fight. I don't really care who I get in my lineups, but I'm picking Baeza to win.
Next up, we've got a bantamweight matchup. Song Yadong taking on Julio Arce. 8,400 for Song Yadong, 7,800 for Julio Arce, and then over on FanDuel, $17 for Song, $14 for Arce. What's your thoughts on this? A pretty good bantamweight matchup. This is one of those fights that really interests me on the card, just to see how it does play out.
Yeah, it's a sneaky fight, man. I think it's a sneaky fight. And this could be a situation where this fight makes it into the optimal lineup and the Baeza Chaos Williams doesn't if they go the distance. You know what I mean? Like, I could see this being a high volume affair where both men test each other. I think I'm interested in Song Yadong, to be honest. I think he's part of a very, very strong camp. I know Julio Arce out of Tiger Schulman's is, underrated camp, but has been for a very, very long time. He's a talented boxer, very, very good boxer, can take people to the mat as well. He does get hit a lot and wears some damage, pretty bad. And Song Yadong looks like a fighter who is molding into something, something very interesting in this division, where I think that he actually could go on a run. Well, I mean, Casey Kenny was a very, very hot prospect in the UFC, had one of the best years of all time. And Song Yadong looked good in that matchup against them, defending some takedowns, kind of just was a better overall athlete in that fight. Kyler Phillips is a tough matchup. And you saw how Kyler Phillips is so dynamic. He was able to steal some rounds in that one. But, when I look back and trying to see a lot of similarities, I could look back on that Marlon Vera fight. And the Marlon Vera fight, if you were tested against Marlon Vera, I think that you can do well against Julio Arce. I think Julio Arce probably has the more pop in his shots. But yeah, I'm picking Song Yadong. I like him being at, Team Alpha Male. I like what they've been doing. I know that historically they have not been a good gym for periods of time, but then they go on runs. And I think that, the new Team Alpha Male that we've been dealing with is a strong gym. And as long as you have Uriah Faber in charge of stuff, and you have a good, coaching staff there, I think that Song Yadong can mold into the fighter that we all hoped he was. And I think a fighter that can definitely contend for the title one day.
I think this is more kind of a generic thing that you can kind of talk about your experience as a fighter. If this is southpaw versus orthodox,
yes.
And Julio Arce, who is a southpaw, does have a 3-inch reach advantage.
Yeah, it's a great point. And that's why I would kind of look back at Marlon Vera, and Vera likes to switch stances. So it's not like he's like just an absolute dominant southpaw. He switches stances sometimes depending on the strikes that he throws. Julio Arce really, just resides into that southpaw stance. The angles are different, man. The jab isn't eliminated, but you have to be selective with it. And it's basically power hand versus power hand, where you want to, get your head off center line and throw that right hand down the middle. Your right kick's always going to be there, where you could dig to the body. It's just the angles. It's more of the footwork that's the most difficult thing, because a lot of fighters, you're so used to dealing with an orthodox fighter and moving away from that right hand. If you start to do that, you're moving into the left hand now of a southpaw fighter. So having faced another southpaw, and a fighter who likes to fight in the southpaw position for some time, I think Song Yadong will be prepared for this matchup. Whereas some other fighters, I'm telling you, man, it's a nightmare facing southpaws if you haven't done it.
Next up, we got a lightweight matchup. Thiago Moises taking on Joel Alvarez. For Moises, 9,000, 7,200 for Alvarez, and 20 and 11 over on FanDuel. The first thing that sticks out to you, Pete, when we talk about the teletape, is the major reach advantage that Alvarez has in this fight of 7 inches. But this is one of those things of Alvarez slick on the ground, but also Thiago Moises, he does well on the ground as well. I don't love the price tag here on Thiago at 9,000, just because this is a guy that Has shown to go to the decision. The UFC, the last 4 fights have gone to the decision. I just think that he's going to be able to shut down the submission game of Joel Alvarez. And I just don't know if that $9,000 price tag pays itself off.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'll tell you what, Thiago Moises, I was really, really excited about him, coming into the UFC. And then he lost to Beneil Dariush. And obviously hindsight 2020, Beneil Dariush is a very talented fighter.
Yeah.
I know that Beneil had skills, but I didn't really see the Beneil of now. So then I kind of got off the train a little bit. And then he had a fantastic performance against Kurt Holloway, where he landed 4 takedowns himself, en route to a 100-point performance. And then he's had some good competitive fights from Ismagulov to Johnson, Green, Hernandez, and now recently to Makhachev. I think a lot of people kind of counted him out, and he started to prove that he has a well-rounded skill set. He's a part of one of the best gyms on the planet, American Top Team. His jiu-jitsu has been always phenomenal, and his striking, I think, is underrated, and he's pretty crisp everywhere. So where Joel Alvarez will shine in the grappling department, where he's able to snatch up necks and find finishes, he has a very, very impressive 18-2 record. Joel has to be one of the underdogs that you look at and circle just because of his finishing ability. But I agree with you that I don't really like this fight for DFS, just because I think a guy in Thiago Moises, who's so sound in the grappling department, can shut down Joel Alvarez and force him to strike. Now, Thiago Moises did pretty well against Makhachev, in retrospect, when you look back and you see what Makhachev just did to Dan Hooker. Not really the performance I thought. I thought Hooker would be a little bit more competitive. So it's kind of impressive when you think that Moises lasted that long against Islam.
Well, I mean, and I think that when you look at, we talked about this last week with the Shane Burgos, Billy Quarantillo fight of the levels of competition.
What a fight.
Where you had, by the way, cheap plug, Billy Q will be on my show next week. A little cheap plug there for me. We talked to actually Billy tomorrow.
Nice.
About what happened with his fight with Shane. But, Shane had fought the higher level of competition leading into that fight where Billy was working his way up. And I think this is kind of very similar situation here where Thiago has fought, a much higher competition at 155 pounds as opposed to what Alvarez fought on the other side. So I think that's just something to kind of, as you think about, you got Alvarez coming up, but I just, the question is, I think, can he make this a jiu-jitsu fight and start to work that ground game?
Yeah, I mean, anything can happen, right? Like Moises could jump for a guillotine, and then you have a guy in Alvarez who's on top. I'll tell you, Quarantillo, he really surprised me. His toughness is always something that we know of, but his volume looked great. I thought his combinations looked good. I thought that I could definitely tell there was some improvements in his boxing, and credit to your plug and your information that you said on, last week's strategy show for that. And he ended up being a part of the optimal lineup. And that goes to show you, a losing fighter with his that fight was bananas. They threw so many strikes. I'm sitting there trying to work, and I'm just like, this is one of the best fights I've ever seen. I don't have the sound on, so I'm obviously not listening to the commentary, but I'm sure the crowd and everybody was going wild because it was such a high volume, violent affair. And I thought that Billy should hold his head high after that performance.
I mean, look, last Saturday was just a great combat sports night.
Oh my God. It was,
right from the first fight of the pay-per-view. I mean, and so many great things even happened on the prelims. It was overall.
What was your favorite fight?
Oh, it's got to be Gaethje Chandler.
Yeah. Okay.
Here's a crazy thing. It's
Okay.
probably not even Gaethje's most exciting UFC fight.
He's had some bangers, man. He really has. And, Chandler looked amazing early. And I was like, oh my God. And Chandler's known for his work ethic. So I'm like, I don't really foresee this guy getting so tired. I know that he's pumped up with good, big muscles and all that. But Gaethje was on skates early. And then Gaethje planted him on his butt with one of the best timed uppercuts I've ever seen.
As I'm watching that fight, one of the thoughts that went in my mind is, we all know the power Justin Gaethje has in his hands.
Yeah.
What's it say about the power Patricio Pitbull has?
Good point, brother. Good point. I think Pitbull's one of my favorites. And credit. Look what AJ McKee just did to him too. So it's pretty crazy. MMA math does not make sense, bro. It really does. It does not. You'll have, if MMA math made sense, you would have some really random fighters on like the top leaderboard.
Yeah, Chris Barnett, we got to mention him. What performance he had,
Oh
and what
my
I mean,
God.
and what a great sign after the fight. He's like, hey, this guy's retiring. Let's show him love. I thought that was really cool.
Taking an
And
advantage of mic time, bro. And he's a character from the dancing, walking out. His style, I think that, that was a Hail Mary. He's tricky. I don't really foresee these performances duplicating going into the future, but it was one hell of a performance, and he took advantage of the mic time and became a star overnight.
yeah, man, I want to say, like, I think I saw he gained like 50,000 Instagram followers or something like that. It was something crazy. Yeah, John Anik was telling a story about these dance moves that Chris Barnett pulls off.
Yeah,
That he sees them in video games, and his mindset is, hold on, someone performed that move.
Yeah,
sensors all
like
around him, and he tries them.
I used to do that too. Like when you're playing Tekken or you're playing Street Fighter or whatever you're doing, like Huarang was like my guy, and he throws so many dynamic kicks. So you would definitely try to mimic some of the combinations, but some of them are absolutely ridiculous. Like I ain't doing no backflip, double kick. Get the heck out of here. But yeah, that was a great performance.
And Dave brings up the point. He says, doesn't look like the athlete he actually is. No doubt.
Yeah, right.
He has had that body frame. He used to fight here in the Tampa regional scene. And like the best way I can put it is, I think a lot of people gravitate towards him in the stands because they go, I've got that body frame.
Roy Nelson.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Totally.
Roy Nelson. He became a star by rubbing his belly and knocking people out with a big overhand right and a big beard. It's if people can relate to you, they like you. If they can, it doesn't even have to be about like visual. Like if they can relate to a situation you're going through, people will obviously support you. So credit to Barnett. You looked awesome.
Yeah, he looked absolutely amazing. Of course, this is the also MMA strategy show. We're getting you ready for UFC Vegas number 42, and we are sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight. With Monkey Knife Fight, you are in charge. Head over to monkeyknifefight.com. Use that promo code Awesemo for instant first match deposit of up to $100. And of course, you got to use our player props tool we have over at Awesemo.com, which is an absolutely amazing tool. You got to take advantage of that when you're playing over at Monkey Knife Fight. Let's look at the main event, co-main event, Pete. Main event, Max Holloway, Yair Rodriguez. 165.5 total strikes landed for Max Holloway, 123.5. I think it's a less situation no matter how long this fight goes on Yair Rodriguez.
Oh, okay.
But now the Max Holloway is an interesting one. If you think this thing's going 25 minutes, I say more. If you think this fight's ending in 4 rounds or less, I think you got to go less.
Okay. Fair. If it goes 5 rounds, he absolutely surpasses that. He talked about he wants to like land 600-800 strikes or something stupid like that. So finishes, he ended up taking out Anthony Pettis, Jose Aldo twice, and Brian Ortega. So it comes down to how do you stack Yair Rodriguez's toughness? Do you think he can take so many shots like Calvin Kattar did, where that stubborn New England mentality? We'll have to see. I would probably lean. I'm probably going to say more because I think he's going to land so many. If we look at Yair Rodriguez, I go to the Chan Sung Jung fight. Chan Sung Jung over 5 rounds landed 126. So the kid does have toughness and he does have a chin. So I'm going to say more, but a finish really wouldn't surprise me.
Co-main event, Ben Rothwell, Marcos Rogerio de Lima, 83.5 for Ben Rothwell, 54.5 for Rogerio de Lima. I think the number on Ben Rothwell is way too high.
What's it? 50?
83.5.
Oh, yeah, that's way, yeah. And then 50 on the other side. I don't know. It could be a sloppy affair. I mean, he scored 89 in his victory over Marcin Tybura. Outside of that, there's almost every fight's under 80. Yeah. So, yeah, the Ben Rothwell one, he should be looking for a choke soon and avoiding the big power. I think it's a double S, honestly.
I do too. I think because I think this fight's going to end in the second round, but be sure to use that promo code Awesemo for instant first match deposit of up to $100 at monkeyknifefight.com. You go to their website. You can also download their app in the App Store as well. Appreciate their support here of the Awesemo MMA Strategy Show. By the way, we'll mention I will not be here on Saturday for Live Before Lock. Greg will be filling in for me as I'll be hopping on a plane as you guys are doing the show here. So appreciate Greg filling in for me on Saturday for Live Before Lock. And I think I'm pretty good for Live Before Locks for the rest of the year. I think though.
Nice.
I think. There's one.
You literally just said it. What time is lock?
1:00 on Saturday.
Oh, okay. Daytime MMA. I love it.
Yeah, I literally have to be getting to the airport as you guys are getting on the air, but yeah, Greg will be filling in for me on Saturday for live before lock. Let's move on to the card. We got Cynthia Calvillo taking on Andrea Lee. 8,200 for Cynthia Calvillo, 8,000 for Andrea Lee, $16 and $15 respectively over on FanDuel. And so I've got a sheet of paper here where like I have noble reach advantages. Andrea Lee, she's +5. Then I have 3 fighters in my takedown city candidates. Cynthia Calvillo is one of them. To me, that is, if she's going to win this fight or have the proper game plan, to me, the proper game plan is try to put Andrea Lee on her back.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying it the other way around.
No.
Yeah. I would agree with you. Before we get to that, props to our boy Aiden, who ended up taking down a big GPP last week. He's pretty damn sharp, and congratulations. But this fight between Cynthia Calvillo and Andrea Lee is interesting. Andrea Lee, it's tough to really get a read on her because she has a submission finish over Antonina Shevchenko. Does that really hold a lot of value?
No.
She lost 3 fights in a row to Roxanne Modafferi, Lauren Murphy, Joanne Calderwood. Those are 3 tough fighters for women's MMA. They really are. And especially when you have 2 of them split decision losses to Joanne Calderwood, who kind of lets fights go out of her hands. The Lauren Murphy one is interesting to me just because Lauren Murphy looked like she was a, Lauren Murphy 2.0 up to a point. And then, just had a terrible performance against Shevchenko. But I mean, who would have a really good performance against Shevchenko? Losing to Roxanne Modafferi, I think Roxanne's tough. I think that she has a tricky style, especially if she's able to get on top. But now you're talking about facing a pretty good wrestler and grappler in Cynthia Calvillo with some solid boxing. Nothing spectacular, but some solid boxing. A victory over Jessica Ai, that holds some value for me, even though Jessica Ai is not what she used to be. And then losing back-to-back fights to Caitlin Chukagi and Jessica Andrade via finish. I think this is another a get-right spot for her, like a get-right fight. And I think Cynthia Calvillo should look to the takedown well early and often against Andrea Lee, who her takedown defense is inconsistent. She does the right things sometimes and makes some mistakes some others. And I think the pressure of a fighter like Cynthia Calvillo could get to her. Obviously, women's MMA is completely volatile, but in this matchup, I feel like Cynthia Calvillo is clearly the A side.
I mean, I think the one thing mentioned about Calvillo is, I think she was better off at 115 in terms of takedowns as opposed to at 125 pounds. On Andrea Lee, Shevchenko was the first fighter in the UFC to not take her down. Machado took her down 1 time. Ashley O. Smith took her down 2 times. Montella Del Rosa 5 times. Jojo Calderwood 2 times. Lauren Murphy 2 times. Roxanne Modafferi 4 times. So to me, it's a clear path to victory. And, we always talk about it, trying to put an emphasis on fighters who have the ability to take the fight to the ground. And I mean, look, if we're in the coaching staff of Cynthia Calvillo, it's got to be, let's get this fight to the ground. But if Andrea Lee can keep this on the feet, it could be an interesting play. At this price tag, I do think it's going 15 minutes. I just kind of feel like if this fight's going to be optimal, Pete, I really feel like it'll be on the Cynthia side because of massive amount of takedowns, massive amount of control time.
Yeah, I think the value is incredible on a fighter like Cynthia Calvillo. When you look back and you see who she's taken down, Jessica Ai, very, very strong, very, very strong. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Jessica Ai had a bad weight cut that fight, but Cynthia Calvillo took her down 4 times, 113 significant strikes. Marina Rodriguez has looked unbelievable and has gone on quite a run. In a draw to her, she took her down 3 times as well. So that holds some merit for me. I'm siding significantly with Cynthia Calvillo, but women's MMA really doesn't surprise me when some of these underdogs pop. It could be any given night. If Calvillo just abandons the takedowns for whatever reason, and this turns into a striking affair, then that's where I think Andrea Lee can kind of steal the fight from her. But I'm going to be playing a ton of Cynthia Calvillo at 8,200.
Next up, we got a featherweight matchup. Sean Woodson taking on Colin Anglin. Sean Woodson with a 7-inch reach advantage in this one. He's 9,200, 7,000 for Colin Anglin, $21 and $10 over on FanDuel. I spoke to both of these guys, a part of my show this week. Funny moment in my interview with Sean Woodson.
So are you friends with both of them, or not friends, but you've spoken to both of them over, the course of several years?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I said, Sean, true or false? Colin will go for a takedown in the first 90 seconds. He starts bust out laughing. He goes, 90 seconds? You mean 30?
Oh, damn.
He is completely expecting that Colin Anglin is going to shoot immediately. Colin Anglin does have a wrestling background.
A good one, too.
And one kind of the interesting aspects of this one is Sean Woodson does do some cross training at Glory MMA and Fitness there in Lima, Missouri. He's not gone there for this one because there's a relationship between James Krause and Mark Montoya. Of course, Mark Montoya, the head coach of Factory X, that's where Colin Anglin trains out of. Colin moved to Colorado about a year or so ago with Cody Brundage, both coming out of that Michigan regional scene. Look, if Colin is one of the three fighters I have in my takedown candidate list, look, if Colin Anglin's going to win this fight, it's because he's taking it down. But one of the things when you watch Sean Woodson, when he does get taken down, he has that ability to get up, and he very much has a Pete Rogers Jr. body frame. Really tall, skinny, 145 pounder. Well, you ain't seen 145 pounds on that scale anytime soon.
Listen, this guy made me look like I was a shrimp. This guy, Sean Woodson's really, really big for the weight class. And Colin Anglin's extremely interesting this week just because of his extensive wrestling background. He scored 3 takedowns on Dana White's Contender Series against Melsik Bagdasaryan, who we just saw and looked pretty damn good defending takedowns. He ended up scoring 1 takedown against him. The control time wasn't the best. It was only like 18 seconds. But a guy in Sean Woodson, his Achilles heel is his wrestling. It's not bad. Yusuf Zalal was able to take him down twice, but he went 2 for 17. Man, that's some good defense or some, lethargic takedowns. The Julian Erosa fight is what really sticks out to me is any fighter that's fighting Sean Woodson should look to emulate that performance, right? Take him down, threaten with a choke, because I don't think that he has the best jiu-jitsu. Yeah, he's got some solid takedown defense for the majority of the fight. He gets back to his feet decently well. He'll butt scoot to the cage. But if you are kind of able to negate all that by start threatening him with submissions, that really stifles his, standing up ability. So if Colin Anglin can start to threaten with a choke, that's when he can really reinforce a position. It's an interesting fight. It's an interesting underdog. I am still siding with Sean Woodson. I think the reach is going to be a very difficult problem to solve for Anglin. 6'2" at 145 pounds is absolutely unheard of. A KO for him isn't out of the realm of possibility. I just don't know where Woodson lies on my priority scale if I'm really looking at a lot of these high-priced options. Let me kind of look right here. So we got Holloway at 9,500, Woodson 9,200, Spencer 9,100, Thiago Moises 9,000. Of those 4 I mentioned, I would probably say Felicia Spencer is my favorite. Would you happen to agree with that?
After Holloway? Holloway's number 1. Yes.
Yeah.
The ceiling is the thing with Holloway, and this is as we're developing our roster. Your fear is if you don't put Holloway in your lineup, he's going to go out there and get 140, 150 points. I mean, that's the fear you have if you don't roster him. But like in terms of matchups, I'd rather go to Felicia Spencer. I would put Sean Woodson over Thiago Moises. When I saw the pricing initially, my first thought on Sean Woodson was, man, like, can he pay off the 9,000 price tag?
Yeah, that's a great point.
And another thing to note, Yusuf Zalal and Colin Anglin are main training partners at Factory X.
And just because Yusuf Zalal, in my opinion, is a lot better fighter than Colin Anglin, I think Colin Anglin has adequate striking to, if he follows a game plan better, he could possibly spoil Sean Woodson, who maybe is overlooking him. We see it all the time. I mean, like in all sports, you see these big favorites overlook these massive underdogs. I mean, look at the Bills and the Jags that destroyed everybody's parlays, including mine. In an MMA fight, a bad weight cut, an injury, a correct game plan, it can all lead to an underdog coming through. So Colin Anglin definitely has some appeal this week.
And Anglin has got to be one of those guys in your underdog pool. Dave was
Yep.
asking who's the underdog pool. We'll talk about some other fighters, but Colin Anglin has to be in that underdog pool because if he is able to utilize his wrestling at 7,000, even in a decision win, even if he's, he gets you 75 points at 7,000, that's the type of fighter you're going to need in your lineup to get to Max Holloway.
You're right. Exactly. It's going to be Max Holloway roster construction is going to be very difficult for some, and it's going to have a lot of duplicates. So either weaving in and out of that Max Holloway exposure or avoiding him and hoping that he has an underwhelming total or something, or hitting on these correct underdogs is definitely going to be pivotal for the optimal lineup. So I can't wait. I hope everybody makes weight on Friday and we go forward with the amount of fights we have, because if we lose any more, it's going to be a very, very chalky slate.
Oh, no question about it. Of course, as we always mention on the show, we always love seeing those screenshots after the fights are over. And when you're rocking that Awesemo avatar on your DFS profile and you place in the top 3 of a contest with over 5,000 contestants and you tweet your wins to @AwesemoHOF, you can get into the Awesemo Hall of Fame. You can see the screenshots there on the screen. Statlayer taking down second place in the NFL contest there on Monday. Kudos to him, taking down $20,000 over there. Connor talking about a free bet he had that he turned into $820. Thanking the Awesemo DFS player tool over there. Kudos what you're able to do there with your player props. I tell you, go over to awesemo.com, hit up Odd Shopper. Just telling you, those player prop tools you got to check out there. Also, Seth taking down a contest there in the Fred Van Vliet Elite Club with EMAC over there. Of course, also Quentin taking down first place there. Fancy Pants 321 is tagged there over on DraftKings. And also C. Neal taking down first place there in NBA Mini Max contest. Congratulations. Of course, when you want to get into the Awesemo Hall of Fame, you got to be rocking that Awesemo avatar. Get that awesemo.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at AwesemoHOF. You win a free month of Also Plus Platinum. You can only win that one time per calendar year. Let's move on. 3 more matchups here to talk about. We got Courtney Casey taking on Jojua, $8,800 for Casey, $7,400 for Jojua, $20 and $11 on FanDuel. Pete, what's your thoughts on this one, man?
Yeah, we got an underdog that I'm interested in Jojua, and I think it's going to be a pretty chalky and everybody's going to be looking to her because in low-level women's MMA bouts, the underdogs, it's a lot closer of a fight than sometimes the odds are, or even the DFS salaries are. 8,800 for Courtney Casey is probably a big stay away for me. She could definitely come through and land an armbar from guard off of her back again and end up coming through. But the reality is that she is 9-9 overall in her MMA career. Liana Jojua has showcased some potential. She's 8-4. So, it's a very, very volatile matchup. Courtney Casey will probably be the bigger of the two and will have a slight reach advantage in this matchup, 5 inches. The volume striking of Courtney Casey is what really gets her victories a lot of the times and kind of moves the needle in her direction in sloppy, slugfests. But I think a fighter in Liana Jojua could look to go to the takedown well here against Courtney Casey. And I think I would definitely recommend that here. JJ Aldrich, a fighter known for just really being a counter fighter, throwing a big left hand, landed 4 takedowns against Courtney Casey. Jillian Robertson, a fantastic grappler, landed 3 takedowns and submitted her in the third. Mara Romero Barella, 1 takedown. I mean, the list goes on. She's been taken down multiple times by multiple fighters, and she's able to work back to her feet and engage in sloppy striking affairs. So I do think this is going to go the distance. I'll have exposure to both, but the pricing of Courtney Casey is absolutely absurd given her ceiling. I think it's a relatively low ceiling, and a fighter in Liana Jojua who has some strong takedowns, but it's a small sample size. You saw it against Sarah Morris, where I think Sarah Morris has she's not the best MMA fighter by any means, but I think that she's pretty strong and has a solid ground game. So anybody that can put her in some bad positions when it comes to grappling, I think is a little interesting. And Jojua was able to do that. It's a, I don't know, like if you look at Jojua, round 1 loss to Miranda Maverick, round 1 win against Deanna Belbitsa, round 3 loss to Sarah Morris. So she kind of goes out on her shield, and I like that as an underdog. She's going to fight for our money, so I'm okay with getting to her. This is probably going to be a part of the optimal lineup.
Next up, we got Mark Diakiese taking on Rafael Alves, A700 for Diakiese, 7,500 for Alves, 19 and 12 respectively over on FanDuel.
Yeah, I like this fight a lot. I really do. This would probably be one of my most prioritized fights, just because I could see Mark Diakiese coming through. He's looked really good striking. He tries to land some takedowns himself. His gas tank is somewhat suspect. And, you saw him land takedowns against Lando Venado, who's primarily a striker. Rafael Viziev, who is an absolute monster, was able to take him down and land good combinations against him. But his toughness was on full display there. Diakiese also took down Joe Duffy 3 times. So he likes to go to that well, but I think he needs to be very, very careful if he does that against Rafael Alves, because Rafael Alves throws heat and actually has the better ground game of these two. He's going to be the sharper Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, practitioner in this matchup, in my opinion. His top pressure is good. His volatility is high though, because when he loses, he tends to get finished. I like him here though, as an underdog. I think that, at 7,500, he's going to be a guy I think that can come through for us. He's kind of flying under the radar a little bit because he missed weight by such a large amount, and then fought, Ismagulov, who is a very, very difficult fighter to fight, and looked good, knocked him down early in that fight, didn't get finished throughout, went to attempt some chokes in that fight that was somewhat ill-advised. But Rafael Alves is another underdog in addition to Liana Jojua that I have no problem getting to, and I actually think that he has high potential.
In the first fight of the night, it's going to be a fight that I believe we have to prioritize. Kenny Nzechukwu versus Dong Jung, 7,900 for Kennedy, 8,300 for Jung, and then $16 for Jung on FanDuel, $15 for Kennedy. And Dong Jung is one of those fighters that's in my takedown pool. This is just a fight, but I will say this on the other side of the fight, man, we have seen massive improvements from Kennedy fight in, the fight out. Yeah,
I initially, before I even do my tape study, I want to pick Kennedy. I really do, because he's come through for us in the past. He's actually, he looked good against Darko Stosic. Well, not really. He ended up pulling that one off. He looked good against Carlos Ulberg after weathering the storm and ended up coming from behind and getting that beautiful finish. He looked good in the Danilo Marquez fight when Marquez did not have his back for the entire first round. The Achilles heel for him is constantly getting out wrestled or out grappled, but he is a big framed fighter. He is 6'5" with an 83-inch reach. So he's going to give a lot of people he's going to give a lot of problems to a lot of fighters, especially as, from the southpaw stance. A striker in Da-Un Jung, he's a good striker, but he can close that gap and get a nice body lock takedown. He got that against William Knight. But the frames of each of these fighters where, fighting Kennedy and Nzechukwu, I don't know if he's going to be able to get that same takedown, that body lock takedown, because against a smaller stature fighter in William Knight, who's, shorter than him, but has such, high muscle mass, he's able to land that takedown because he has good leverage. Against a guy who is like a tree in Kennedy and Nzechukwu, I think he's going to have to resort to a single leg or even a blast double, where we've seen Kennedy get taken down, and he, similar to Andrea Lee, his takedown defense is inconsistent. Sometimes he's doing the right things. Sometimes his timing is completely off. So I am siding with Da-Un Jung, but again, I think this first fight of the night, just given the nature of both of these guys, I think is going to be a part of the optimal lineup. And a Kennedy and Nzechukwu underdog coming through wouldn't really surprise me, but I'm siding with Da-Un Jung. I think he's going to take him down, take down City.
Yeah, I mean, that to me is when I was looking at the betting odds at the start of the week, when I saw his plus money on Kennedy, that one really did stick out to me. Right. Let's give our straight up picks here, because, of course, coming up next is the NHL Strategy Show right here on live on the Awesemo YouTube channel. Let's start off with the main event. I'll just kind of go down my picks, and Pete can give him Max Holloway. No big surprise there. Give me a bit Ben Rothwell. Give me Spencer. I will go by Baeza. Give me Song Yadong. I will go Moises. Give me Calvillo. Don't feel great about it. Give me Sean Woodson. I will say Courtney Casey. Diakiese. And then give me my one underdog I'm going to go with is Kenny Nzechukwu.
Okay. I'm going to go Max Holloway, Ben Rothwell, Felicia Spencer, Miguel Baeza, Song Yadong, Thiago Moises, Cynthia Calvillo, Sean Woodson. Colin Anglin is a great underdog, though. Liana Jojua, Rafael Alves, and Da-Un Jung.
And of course, you can catch Pete on Saturday with Greg for Live Before Lock, as they'll get you ready for UFC Vegas number 42, 1 p.m. start time, lock time on Saturday. So those guys will be live at noon. I'll be back next Thursday for the strategy shows. We'll get you ready for Caitlin Vieira versus Misha Tate, which is the main event next week for UFC Vegas number 43.
Weird.
Stay tuned. Coming up next is the NHL Strategy Show. Pete will talk to you on Saturday for Live Before Lock. Have a good day, everybody, and happy Veterans Day to all of our military members out there. Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks, guys.